Libby, Montana is like most small towns in America. What sets Libby apart, though, is asbestos. Lots of it.
Is it correct that from 1948 on you knew, and the company always knew, that there was a serious health problem because of the large amount of dust?
It's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and today I'm back with another YouTube video. Today I'm doing an anti-capitalism true crime, story video, a deep dive into this topic. Today I'm going to be doing the pure evil, the Libby Montana asbestos story. A deep dive into that, capitalism, a cover-up, true crime, etc. All my YouTube videos related to this topic will be linked down in the description down below, also as well as on the screen right now if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this YouTube video. In 1999, the EPA began to investigate claims that an alarming number of residents of Libby, Montana were experiencing health problems from exposure to asbestos, and in 2009, the EPA declared the situation in Libby, Montana a public health crisis emergency due to residents' level of exposure to asbestos from the nearby pro-capitalism mines, a first in the agency's history, citing the immediate need for funding from the government. Over 400 victims of capitalism have died in this small mountain town due to an asbestos contamination, and an estimated 3,000 plus victims of capitalism have been diagnosed with diseases such as mesothelioma cancer. The Zonolite company responsible for this capitalism atrocity disaster first started mining operations in Libby, Montana in the 1920s, extracting the mineral Vermiculite from the surrounding mountain areas. Vermiculite is a unique mineral that expands when exposed to heat, and is used for a variety of purposes, such as the cheapest, most efficient way to insulate homes, and experienced great success initially. During its operation, the mine in Libya was responsible for providing 80% of the country's supply and was successfully marketed to homeowners across America. Pure vermiculite is not dangerous, but unfortunately for the townspeople of Libby, Montana, the nearby deposit was contaminated by a naturally occurring form of asbestos. By 1956, it was clear that Zonolite, the company, knew about the asbestos risk. Just like the Johnson & Johnson baby powder company, they hid their crimes. The capitalist company didn't give a fuck about their employees' lives. They did not disclose it to their employees, the risks of it. And in 1963, when W.R. Grace and Company bought the mine in Libby, the full effects of asbestos were readily available and apparent in miners and the employees of the company as a whole. A company report from 1965 contained a long list of employees that are listed as having abnormal chest cavities, many of whom had already died from the lung disease and also lung cancer. People in the town were certainly aware the large quantity of toxic ass dust was linked to the rising number of cancer, lung issues, and overall health effects problems, but when they asked about the mysterious dust disease, company officials always responded that the mine only contained the Zonolite. One miner remembered confronting a mining operator upon learning that Zonolite is one of the most dangerous forms of asbestos. That really upset me because we're not geologists. There's not a person up that hill on the mountain that knew the definition for Zonolite. The dust affected the entire home from work. They were covered in toxic dust, spreading that shit to their family members, and all because this greedy-ass capitalist company valued capitalism and profits over lives. Hugs and embraces with loved ones were unknowingly dangerous for their families. Waste and dust from the mines contaminated over 1 million cubic yards of soil, land on which schools and little kid playgrounds were built. upon surrounding groundwater was contaminated as well, because capitalism loves to contaminate groundwater, carrying deadly fibers of asbestos into the intestines of children and other people, into the intestines of people of Libby. Capitalism destroying the environment, because capitalism is known for destroying the environment over and over and over again, because that's what capitalism system does best: destroy the earth and pollute everywhere it goes. By the time the mine closed in 1990, it was too little too late for many of the town's residents, aka the victims of capitalism. Asbestos from the mine devastated Libby, Montana, killing up to 10% of the population in that town area, and inflicting many more pain and capitalism suffering. Long story short, the capitalist pigs got away with this shit because the U.S. government serves capitalism and capitalism interests, period, point blank. It was a scheme to cheat these workers. They wanted to keep them till the job until retirement, to preclude the high cost of workmen's compensation payouts, and didn't tell them what was going on. The workers couldn't smell it. They couldn't taste it. It didn't burn. There was no indication it was anything more than plain old dust. But medical studies and scientific studies and records undertaken by Libby physicians in the 1960s showed that 37% of all workers and employees had the beginning stages of a hidden disease and, lung cancer. In the long term, workers, 92%, had asbestos-related illnesses. Doctors and technicians took annual x-rays of the workers' lungs and could see the scarring on their lungs and, the developing of cancer. But they will withhold that information from the workers because capitalists are psychopathic monsters that are paying to keep the truth quiet. They're afraid of the truth tellers of society. Today, certain zones have been deemed clean, while other more isolated areas still report contamination of asbestos. People in Libby, Montana still gather every year to remember the victims of capitalism and loved ones they've lost to the disease. Some still demand compensation from the U.S. government from this capitalism-caused tragedy, but the sewer fund program is unable to offer any financial assistance to affected residents. By law, the EPA can only divert funds to cleanup operations. And, the United States government failed once again to protect their citizens, because under capitalism and underneath this United States fascist regime, lives don't matter, profits matter.
Stuff is just all over Libby, Montana. People have used it for everything. As attic insulation, in walls, put down just loose on driveways. It was used as a soil amendment in yards and gardens around town. You just really find it everywhere.
EPA's first priority in Libby was the removal of hotspots around town near schools, ball fields, and vermiculite processing plants. Then, after an exhaustive screening study, sampling, and inspections, U.S. EPA and their contractors are now identifying and removing contaminated vermiculite insulation from attics and other accessible interior and exterior spaces.
The sampling was aimed at going to each and every home and doing a visual inspection to check for vermiculite. When that was done, what we came out with as an initial cut was about 1,300 homes that would need cleanup based on finding vermiculite in the attic as insulation or visible vermiculite in yards and gardens.
Residents were naturally apprehensive, especially considering the toll taken on the community already.
Literally hundreds of people have died and thousands of people are affected by this asbestos to some degree. And that makes the cleanup all the more difficult. When people know that the health effect is real, when they live with it every day, it makes the stakes a bit higher.